Bits and Bones, my name is Slady and welcome to my channel. As I'm sure you've noticed, the background is a little different. We're always trying to do something different on my channel to better accommodate my needs, and I needed to not throw myself in a corner just to get in front of a bookshelf so it looked cuter, because that was a lot of effort and very uncomfortable. For the time being, I don't believe, no matter how hard I try, filming in my apartment is going to work out, so this is just black screen for now. Hopefully the commentary is worth it. I'm going to be adding more editing and images and stuff to keep you visually stimulated. From this video forward, I will also be doing little announcements at the start of every video. Not this one, because the announcement was kind of that I have a different setup, but I will be doing artist shoutouts, spotlights for other writers, and sometimes just plain updates for videos that I've made in the past. Say I've watched a movie again, changed something I thought about it, or new information, if it's an ongoing thing. So after our massive gap from the last book review, today we're going to be talking about When Dimple Met Rishi. It was written by Sadhya Menon in May of 2017, so it's been out for a while. It's a book that got a lot of media presence on its release for its inclusion and representation of modern Indian relationships. I won't give this book too much of a non-spoiler section because it's a romance and we all kind of know how those go. Before entering university, Dimple wants to enter a summer program to develop her passion as an app designer. What she doesn't know is that her parents agreed to her request for freedom and exploration with the intention of her meeting Rishi, a boy that they're arranging to be her future husband. As you can imagine, they meet, confusion and awkwardness ensues, but they get stuck together on a project. Oh no. The more time they spend together, the more they bond, and boom, relationship. I gave When Dimple Met Rishi a 3 out of 5 because it was fine. It did everything that a young adult romance has to do. They meet, they're cute, they disagree but not fundamentally, and they have to overcome some personal revelations before they can be together. As a young adult romance, because I'm not addressing what sets it apart yet, I found it could have been shortened or expanded. The struggles Rishi and Dimple helped their supporting cast with felt juvenile, as were some of the aspects of their relationship that were introduced. The book felt a bit suspended between audiences. Trying to be progressive, it included Dimple and Rishi deciding to consent to have sex despite their familial obligations, and although they remain in a physical relationship after the fact, sex was like a hurdle that the book was trying to get past. A topic to hit it and quit it. Sex isn't really mentioned after they get it out of the way, which makes the overcoming of that obstacle feel immature. They immediately go back to being completely high school butterflies and handholds. But where I think the book could have been expanded is the real core of my criticism. I will slightly later go on about how it did too happy of an ending that I'm increasingly finding I hate in novels, where Rishi gets to be an artist because it's his true passion all along and he needed Dimple to push him into it, or how Dimple basically won the app developing program she loves, or how they both decide to love each other after months of complete silence at the exact same time for the perfect cute moment. Okay, one thing. To write and dwell on their initial meeting when Dimple throws coffee on Rishi to the point where it's displayed on the book cover not once but twice, you'd think that when they meet at the end there would be more of a tie and end line. Yes, she mentions that Rishi can throw a drink on her if he wants because she was being too stubborn, but it ends on, and then they kissed. We know they love each other, we know Rishi has had a ring this whole time, and the world has conspired to let them be together, and even though Dimple doesn't want to get engaged, they could have referenced the line that Rishi first said to her. Or Dimple, why couldn't she just say, "Hello, my future husband"? Sorry. Anyway. If you haven't read the book, or discerned from my comments, both the main characters are Indian, and were raised in an Indian household, and with parents that strictly uphold their traditions. The premise of the book is that their parents want to arrange them to marry. Dimple rejects their ideas, whereas Rishi respects them, but in some cases decides to decline from participating, aka abstinence until marriage. And I think, for a young adult book, there's a lot of topics and struggles one faces in a traditional Indian family that When Dimple Met Rishi handled really well. Dimple and Rishi's views came together in a complementary contrast that aimed to give young Indian teens a relatable perspective. A lot of Dimple's emotional qualms boiled down to something similar to coming out of the closet. How do you explain to a family that's clearly laid out its expectations that those don't represent you and you naturally oppose them? Dimple doesn't want babies, she wants a career. She doesn't want to be married off at the earliest convenience. And although I said I found some of the interactions with other characters in the novel a bit immature because they are college age, Dimple and Rishi's exploration of self, despite the structure they'd been raised in, was the highlight of the novel. That discussion and that exploration is what I would have liked to have been expanded on, because there are so many clear barriers both characters faced because of their family's expectations, and despite their continued self-development, the ending doesn't reflect their journeys. Dimple is unhappy without Rishi, so her overbearing mother admits she'll never be disappointed in her, and the specific life goals she's been drilling into Dimple since her birth apparently don't really matter. Rishi stands up for himself and what he wants to do for a career despite his parents' ideas of what constitutes a real job, after his entire life as a brown-nosing first son, and they just reluctantly say fine. That's fine. Parents are people too, and they're not perfect. With such lifelong, forceful declarations of their intentions for their children, it wouldn't be surprising if Dimple's mom was raging pissed when she said she doesn't want to have kids. Or for Rishi's father to reasonably refuse to pay for what he considers a course in a useless profession. Parents project expectations onto their kids because those expectations include who they want to be. A grandmother, the CEO father of an equally successful son who happens to be an engineer or a doctor or whatever it is. Opposing those dreams doesn't always end well. Parents don't accept what you want just because you're displeased, because odds are they're displeased too if they let you have your way. And it seems I'm going to continuously complain about novels that are tied up too nicely. Despite their persistence and the overbearing expectations they set up for their children, Dimple and Rishi's parents just accept their choices in the end. There's no real conflict over it. The parents look at their kids and go, "Oh, well, if you're unhappy, do whatever you want." And the characters are freed to live their dreams as an artist and app designer and be together in a non-committed relationship. As much as when Dimple met Rishi does a great job of introducing conflicts children may feel in the traditional Indian family, it also does its core audience a bit of a disservice by glossing over the unlikelihood of the happy ending they present. I'll give a bit of a story time so it doesn't seem like I'm just some white girl trying to speak on behalf of Indian preteens. I'm not, I just expect more from books that are representing such emotionally charged topics for a very specific audience. I had a friend in university, name undisclosed, who came from a traditional Indian family. To my knowledge, they traveled back to India often, she was bilingual, and her siblings had been set into arranged marriages before her. She was allowed to go to college on the pretext that after she'd finished her course, she would follow suit, which probably sounds a little bit like what's going on with Dimple. Unlike Dimple, my friend was quite a bit wilder, like a lot wilder, getting high and drinking and partying because it's the university life, you know, like, I mean, as normal, but that's not the kind of person that they represented in the book that I'm reviewing, because they're all goody two-shoes. And of course, she hid that from her parents along with her boyfriend. My friend didn't fit into the lifestyle her parents could accommodate, but she still held on to some deep-seated expectations that they set in her. All I can really technically say that I knew was the life that my friend had told me she wanted. So, in our second year of university, I helped her lie to her parents. When she wanted to move out in a shared off-campus dorm with her boyfriend, I met her parents instead and pretended to be her roommate so that once they finished moving her in, I would just leave and they could be happily together. I didn't agree with the idea of arranged marriage, so I did what I thought was right in letting her be her true self without their knowledge. She didn't deserve to be cut off or have to drop out of school because she wasn't the daughter they expected her to be. I still stand by what I did, although it was a bit deceptive and sketchy as hell. But it was her choice to make, and what she wanted to do, it wasn't mine and it wasn't theirs. So time went on, my friend started getting more absent. It was hard to tell why. She was a pretty big stoner, but she was also ditching extremely easy course projects, and she was riddled with anxiety every time I talked to her. Eventually, she just disappeared. When I asked her actual roommate about it, all she could tell me was that our friend had dropped out of school and gone to a hospital with her family, which is completely out of the blue. As I'd find out a year later, she hadn't just cut ties with me, but the boyfriend she professed to love and lied to her family over. She dropped off the modern radar, presumably came clean to her family about the life that she'd been living and the lies which tormented her, and went back to live with them rather than move out and find her own way like she said she wanted to. It was always pretty clear that the options were go back to your family and give up the life that you're dabbling in right now, or completely lose your family and have to find your own way, which is exceptionally harder when you don't have any financial support. I can't make statements because when I lost my friend, I literally lost my friend. I have no idea where she is, haven't talked to her. I still don't know exactly what happened, but I do know that she was haunted. She spoke of how plagued she was with indecision and guilt over lying to her family, and a fear of losing them because she didn't fit into their expectations. She had so much anxiety over not knowing how to handle the divide she felt between the people that she loved growing up and the person that she wanted to be. And from my perspective, her family won. She had a breakdown, left the ideas she had of being an independent artist behind, and chose to stay in her family's lives. It's a tough choice some people have to make, and it is really, really not fair. When you come from a strict family of any sort, the expectations set can be crippling. It doesn't matter if you're a child of an Indian family, because that can apply to any sort of tradition, religion, or general cultural conduct. I just think in this case, with traditional Indian families at the forefront of the discussion, it's sending teens an overly simplified message. It's not realistic that Dimple and Rishi's parents would accept their decisions. As much as the characters were plagued by their parents' expectations throughout the novel, the ending gives them both an easy out. Yes, parents can love you, but they can also disagree with you. They can be restrictive and harsh. Sometimes a strict household's form of love comes in disagreement and discipline, even disownership. The one thing that I really think when Dimple met Rishi should have had is perhaps one of their families rejecting it. They can still be together in the end. It can be a happy ending, but it was just too easy. And it didn't conform with all of the anxiety and the doubt and the crippling expectations that the characters profess to have from their family. When Dimple Met Rishi was good for what it was, but since there is already a sequel announced, I think it would have benefited the story and characters to have left on a sour note. Maybe one of them is honest about their dreams and doesn't receive acceptance. Maybe the pressure on them is too great that the book ended with them separated, longing but unwilling to sacrifice their families for the sake of a love they grew in just a couple weeks. There was a grand opportunity here to lead teens into the harsh reality that they might not be accepted and help them learn how to handle that. There was nothing holding Dimple and Rishi apart from each other than their own stubbornness in the end. What I would have liked to see a stronger impact their upbringing could have had on their happy ending. Okay, so that was a review and a story time, and how I would recommend the book had been written. The latter part is rather pushy of me, but hopefully when I discuss these ideas, I'm opening the demand for writers to really dig into their stories and give their audience as much as they can. I know I expect a lot, but I also want to show there is a demand for bittersweet, realistic stories. It's me, and hopefully this is subscribers that I accumulate someday, but don't currently have. Like I said, When Dimple Met Rishi got a 3 out of 5 because it was basic in every other regard, and I found it entirely lacking in the audience that it was actually made for. Thank you for watching. If you read When Dimple Met Rishi, let me know how you felt about it, and if you also have some form of repressed trauma rooted in parental expectations, because maybe we can have a therapy session in the comments. If you would like to support me in this channel, I have a Patreon that I will link below. I will be going over all the different tiers when I film a Patreon video soon. Currently, I would just like to thank my one and only patron, Rachel. The first tier is shoutouts in every video that I do, so thank you, Rachel, and I hope someday she will be joined in the graveyard that I am accumulating. My name is Slady, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.